today we're going to talk about some polling and where the race currently stands between Trump and Biden. This poll released this morning from the Des Moines Register has Trump up 18 points over Biden, 50 to 32. The reason why this is significant, I know every Democrat has written off Iowa at this point. It's no longer a swing state. It's a state that has been moving so far to the right in recent years. That is true, but the fact that Trump is up by 18 points and he won the 2020 election by about 9 points over Joe Biden, and in 2016 it was a fairly close one between him and Hillary Clinton, and in 2012 Barack Obama won the state of Iowa by about 5 points over Mitt Romney. It wasn't that long ago that Iowa was a battleground state. So that's one reason why this is significant. If he's up 18 points, that is just insane. Like, that's about the margin that Biden would win in the state of New York or a solid blue state. But, so it's crazy that he's up by that much. It says that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is at 9%. Chase Oliver from the Libertarian Party is at 2%. And 3% say they vote for someone else. Another reason why this is something worth talking about, the Des Moines Register poll is considered the most accurate poll in the entire country. It is a poll that had Trump up. They had him winning the state of Iowa in 2016 when most other polls either had it a dead tie or they even had Hillary Clinton up. They actually had him up by 3%, which no other poll had in the state of Iowa in 2016. Trump ended up actually winning it by about 5%. Then in 2020, another state that had, they like most polls in 2020 had Trump up by like a couple of points. Like they had him winning that state. But the Des Moines Register stood out as an outlier because it had Trump up by 7. He ended up winning it by almost 10 points in 2020. So now you have it where he leads by 18 points from the Des Moines Register. And they're usually off by 1 or 2 points. Trump actually wins a little bit more than what it says. So imagine if Trump wins the state of Iowa by 20 points. That is something to look out for, especially, the rural Midwestern voters. This shows that he's resonating with them, even though Iowa is definitely not the same as Michigan, Wisconsin, or Pennsylvania. He's obviously not going to win any of those states by, I wouldn't even say a significant margin, never mind 18 points. I don't even think he's going to win any of them by 5. Those states are all going to be very close. But it is still something noteworthy. It's showing that he's gaining his base compared to 4 years and 8 years ago. So that's one thing. Now I want to talk about these forecasting models that have recently been released. I think it was about a week ago that the 538 model came out. And initially started, it had Biden actually up. Like, these were flipped. It had Biden up by 51. It said 51 out of 100. So that was his chance, 51% chance of winning. And Trump had a 49% chance. Now they give Trump the slight edge. But then you have the Economist poll, which is even more crazy. Because it has Trump, gives him about a 2 out of 3 chance. So let's say 66% chance of winning the election. And Biden only has 1/3 of a chance. So these are two completely different models with completely different forecasts. Although the 538 methodology, G. Elliott Morris is the person in charge. He's the one that's running 538 right now after Nate Silver left. And he said that if everything stays the way it is right now, so if Trump continues to maintain even just a small lead in the polls that he's been maintaining, if that continues up until the election and the polls don't tighten, and he still, maintains a consistent lead nationally and in the battleground states, then, if nothing else changes, then this model will actually give Trump even higher odds of winning the election. And they even break it down by state, which I find very interesting too. Like what percentage Trump has of winning each individual state. Obviously, California is considered 0% chance. Massachusetts is 0% chance. But when you look at New York, they say Trump has a 3% chance of winning New York. And then New Jersey's even crazier. It says that Trump has a 10% chance. A 10% chance of winning the state of New Jersey. In Colorado, look, he has about the same chance, which is even crazy. We're talking about states that used to be battlegrounds. Talk about 2012, right? Colorado in 2012 was a battleground state. Now it's solid blue. It's just about as blue as New Jersey, although New Jersey, I think, has gotten slightly more red in recent years. That governor's race a few years ago was a nail biter, but I think just the fact that he has a shot at New Jersey, I think he was only polling about 5 points behind Biden in recent polls, and these were credible polls. It wasn't just like Rasmussen or some, heavily skewed Republican poll. Like, these were reputable polls that had Trump within striking distance of Joe Biden in New Jersey, right? And then it says he has a 4% chance of winning Connecticut, a 5% chance of winning Delaware. Virginia, he has about a 1 out of 4 chance of winning that state, and I do think he is going to win Virginia. That's what I said in my own presidential forecast. Minnesota, he has about a third of a chance. And then you look at the true battleground states here. Georgia, 60% chance. Arizona, 57. Nevada, 58. So it's interesting that they have him equal chance of winning Nevada and Georgia. North Carolina is 64, so that leans red, although a lot of people still consider that a battleground. I don't think that there is really much of a chance of Biden winning the state of North Carolina, personally. And then, Florida is really at this point, it used to be another classic swing battleground state, like always a nail-biter every single election. Obama won Florida in 2012, but Trump won Florida by he won it. It was very close in 2016, but he won it by a fairly considerable margin in 2020. Now it's considered out of reach by the Democrats. 76% chance, 80% chance of winning Texas. So the odds of Florida and Texas are about the same for Joe Biden, which I would disagree with. I think, even though I don't think Florida really has much of a chance for Biden, I don't think that it's as much of a long shot as Texas is for Biden, but, we'll see. And then New Mexico, he has a 19% chance of winning that state, which is interesting. And then you look at the 2nd District of Nebraska, 35%. The entire state of Maine is 27%. That's something, huh? Yeah, it's pretty fascinating the way this race is. And then they have the whole snake model over here. And then it breaks down like different scenarios. It says that Biden has a 20% chance of winning in a landslide. I think it's a lot less than that, personally, at this point. Trump has less of a chance. He has a 13% chance of winning in a landslide. Biden winning the Electoral College is 27%. Trump winning the Electoral College is 37%. Popular vote, 60% for Biden, 40% for Trump, which is interesting because all the national polls have Trump in the lead. But I guess they favor incumbency and they have other factors, that kind of weigh it out. Because the model isn't just based off polling, it's based off other things. Biden winning a majority of the... So, yeah, this is another interesting thing. A majority of the popular vote means over 50%, and they think that third parties are going to be a more significant factor this time around than in 2020, where they really didn't mean anything. So, it's interesting how all this stuff is... separated, like the odds of all these different things happening. Now let's look at the Economist model, which is definitely, so it says it right here. Polling is definitely weighed a lot more in this one than the other one. So it kind of makes sense then why Trump has a much higher chance of winning in the Economist one than in 538. So it's based off state polls, national polls, and economic indicators. So if the economy is doing well, if it's not doing so well. On paper, it's doing okay. We've had some good numbers come out lately about unemployment, all these different things, but at the end of the day, if people feel like they're struggling more now than they were 4 years ago, that's going to matter more than the NASDAQ being up 3% or all these other numbers that really don't really mean anything other than the rich getting richer, essentially. So you can see it kind of... it pretty much just stayed the same during the entire time. The model was just released this week, but based off of the model, it really has been... as far as like the national polling, the national polling hasn't really changed all that much. It's actually tightened a little bit if you look at it. Yeah, it's tightened. Because the Republicans were up 3 points. Or Trump was up 3 points, and now it's within less than 1%. Okay, so they have their own state map over here. Look at this. So California, out of reach, obviously. New York. This one, interestingly, says that he has, like, Biden has pretty much like a 100% chance of winning New York. 538 at least gave Trump a 3% chance. Let's look at New Jersey. So it's very similar. It said like 10% chance for 538. Trump has about an 8% chance in New Jersey. How about Virginia? So Trump actually has a higher... So, yeah, here's how the polling has a much higher weight in this, you could see. Because 538 only gave Trump... we can actually go back to it if we want to. Virginia. Trump gave Virginia... he only has a 24% chance in that one. But in this one, he has a 31% chance, which is a little bit more of a chance. Illinois... Oh, this is interesting. Trump has a 10% chance of winning Illinois in this model. What about Illinois in this? So, 7% chance. I remember in 2020, they gave Trump a 7% chance to win the entire election. And it was actually, speaking of the Electoral College, the popular vote doesn't actually matter. He actually had, it was a much closer election than it was, but they only gave him 538 gave him like a 7% chance or a 9% or a 10% chance. So the chance that he had of winning the entire election based off these forecasting models 4 years ago is the chance that Trump has now to win states like New Jersey and Colorado and Illinois. How crazy is that? That is insane. So whatever you want to say about Trump, because there was a lot of talk within the Republican Party saying that Trump is unelectable. I remember the conservative subreddit, like when Trump was, when the primary process first started, was saying, we can't elect Trump again. We need to go for DeSantis or someone else because Trump is already a loser. We can't have another loser in the, running in the Republican. It's just going to give another 4 years for Biden. Like, that was the general consensus, actually. Well, not the consensus, because Trump blew everyone out in the primary. But that was, like, the general feeling from a lot of people within the Republican Party. Like, even if they like Trump, they're like, I don't know. Like, I don't think that he can beat Biden, because the last election didn't turn out so well. And the whole, stop the steal and all these other things that's been going against Trump. Like, you'd think that his support would go down, but it's increased significantly compared to 4 years ago. This time 4 years ago, Joe Biden had about a 7% lead in the popular vote. Now Trump is leading in the popular vote, according to the same polls. And then Nevada, it gives him a higher percent chance in Nevada, in the Economist model, much higher chance for Arizona. Holy shit! And then look at Florida. He has a 94% chance, because, again, it's mostly based off polling. And Texas is the same thing. So you notice a lot of similarities between these two models is that they give Biden about the same amount of, same chance of winning a state, Texas and Florida, So there's a lot of similarities, like, as far as, like, the odds that they have of, like, each individual state. The numbers are a little bit different, but it's still... like, breaking all this down, obviously, at the end of the day, are these polls going to, are all these forecasting models going to be completely accurate? Like, no, of course not. But it's still an interesting thing to see about how they break all this stuff down. Michigan, 59% for Trump, 63% in Wisconsin, 63% for Biden to win Minnesota. 96% chance for Trump in the state of Iowa. Wow. So here's an interesting thing. According to this Economist poll, Trump has a higher chance of winning the state of Illinois than Biden does winning the state of Florida. How fucking wild is that? Because I do believe, Trump's going to win Florida, Biden's going to win Illinois, but just the fact that, like, the odds... And to be fair, I don't think there is much polling in that state, presidential polling in Illinois, because... it's not really... there really isn't much money going into funding polls in states that are considered a foregone conclusion at this point. Trump has a 3% chance in Oregon, 2% chance in Washington. Wow. Rhode Island. So yeah, I always like looking at stuff like this, even though it's probably not going to mean anything at the end of the day. But yeah, because this is based off of polling, it gives Trump a much higher chance of winning all these swing states than the 538 model does, and that's why it's considered more of a coin flip in 538 and more of like Trump is strongly favored with the Economist model. So we'll see which one turns out to be accurate. I'm sure the Huffington Post they're not going to come out with a model this year. I don't even think they did one in 2020 because 2016 they were embarrassed. They gave Trump a 1% chance or a 2% chance of winning the 2016 election. So, yeah, something to look out for.